for having me today on this panel. I think we've heard a lot about the importance of the Islamic financing and the fintech and the digitalization out of their excellency speeches. If we're going to speak about innovation and the ESG, I think it's set in the heart of QDB, even before establishing the fintech hub in Qatar. I mean, we've tackled a lot of verticals from innovation aspects, starting from manufacturing, sports cluster, and finally the fintech was basically our recent development when it comes to the fintech hub. And the strategy that has been developed by Qatar Central Bank and supported by QDB and QFC was basically the main pillar of fostering this innovation moving forward. So we brought all the ecosystem into one hub. So basically the regulator and basically the sector developer, which is QDB, and QFC as the licensing body as well. By now, we have received more than 2,300 applications within the FinTech Hub across more than 70 countries. We've incubated more than 60 companies across all our waves, starting from PayTech, ending by the wave 4 of a new gem banking. As per the report, that Magnet report, Qatar Fintech Hub is the second largest investor in the MENA when it comes to the fintech. The valuation of those companies has reached more than 400 million US dollars. So I think the strategy has demonstrated the success of the fintech pillar within Qatar, and I think Fintech Hub has been recognized within the fintech industry within the global map. With respect to the ESG, I think this has been cultivated and embedded organically, and I would say even before this ESG term has been known on that scale. So as his governance has mentioned, and also Mr. Yusuf, I think voluntarily the banks has already adopted those kind of, especially on the environmental aspect. If I would speak about QDB, just a couple of months ago, I think we have started the first green deposit with the Rayan Bank, and just down the road, we're going to announce, hopefully after getting the relevant approval, the first green financing product for the SMEs. A lot of environmental friendly product from advisory aspect also will be provided to SME. We are not only tackling the greenfield project as a capex investment, but also the brownfield, helping them to transform basically to the green element of it. Social governance, they are less developed globally, I would say, compared to the environment. But environment, I think it's a social responsibility as of now, and everyone has witnessed basically the effect, especially the last year. So basically, concrete initiative has been taken by the entire ecosystem.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. I think it's key that you guys are in the heart of those developments. Encouraging to see that the SME gets attention, because that's the future of our market. I would like to take a global perspective now and ask Abdul Hasib, who is involved in many things in Islamic FinTech in the UK, but also globally with an Islamic FinTech survey. So the question to you is, why is the Islamic FinTech sector a promising subsector of FinTech? And can you share the key finding of the Global Islamic FinTech survey that was recently held?
Sure. Thank you very much, everyone, and thanks to QFC and IFSB for hosting us in Doha. I think your question, you can look at it in a number of ways. So not only is Islamic FinTech a developing and exciting element of the FinTech sector, but it's also a very developing and exciting part of the Islamic finance sector. The report that we produced this year, the Global Islamic FinTech report, which maps global Islamic FinTech activity, found that the market size for Islamic FinTech globally in 2021 was $79 billion in terms of transaction volume, and that's expected to grow at about 18% to 2026 and reach a size of $179 billion rather. What's interesting about that is that actually is an accelerated growth rate when compared to both FinTech, conventional FinTech, and to Islamic finance as well. So there's certainly trajectory and momentum within the Islamic FinTech space. Why is that interesting? I think what we are seeing is we're seeing groundswell of activity in every OIC market, and indeed in some non-OIC markets like the UK and the US, where Islamic FinTechs are developing. mainly because those markets have a fintech specialism as well, and Islamic finance in the case of the UK. From an ESG perspective, I think why that's interesting that are developing are providing access to things for consumers that traditionally they may not have access through to Islamic finance or necessarily conventional finance as well. So for example, when we talk about environment, there are platforms that provide access to investment asset classes such as forestry, that are increasing biodiversity in agriculture that you just would not get in a traditional finance setting. And these are natively digital platforms, providing that is then from those niche developed services, these are broadening out into other areas and being provided as holistic services. So for example, what we saw in conventional fintech, where investment platforms that were specializing in one thing have branched out and added on to become neobanks, we are starting to see that happening in the Islamic fintech space as well. Nizam, who can talk a little bit more about what they're doing, which is actually embedding that from source. So these developments are really exciting. These are things that we see happening in the Islamic fintech space that are not necessarily happening in Islamic banks or not happening fast enough in Islamic banks. They're certainly not happening in the conventional space. And Henk, in your introduction, you talked about underserved segments. I think that's really the key area that Islamic fintech has a role to play, is using technology. And I think either side of me, we've got two gentlemen who are really excelling in that space. So looking forward to hearing from them as well.
Thank you very much. We will make sure that the report is available to all the guests, and we'll send a link. It's good to see that Qatar made it up to the 6th position, is it?
Yes, Qatar now has the 6th highest number of Islamic fintechs anywhere in the world, which is a huge development year on year for Qatar. And we expect that trajectory to only increase with some of the initiatives that are being announced and run here, not least at the QFC and QDB as well.
So we have to work hard to keep that position. So I would love to go from a global perspective to a more Jesus from Wittak, if I pronounce it well. A very promising Islamic fintech to address the